Deep in Wolvercote Cemetery in northern Oxford, if you follow the marked path, you can find the final resting place of j.r.r. Tolkien and his beloved wife Edith. On their tombstones, you can see inscribed two names alongside their own, Beren and Lúthien, and perhaps you may wonder what they mean. They must be significant. The story of Beren and Lúthien is in fact the heart and soul of the entire legendarium, and its importance to Tolkien's life, on a personal level, cannot be overstated. As such, in this video, we'll explore the legendary tale of Beren and Lúthien, as well as examine a foundational but perhaps sometimes overlooked aspect of the Lord of the Rings philosophy, the philosophy of love, while taking inspiration from the books and Tolkien's own life. Let's start at the beginning. Beren was a mortal man, son of Barahir, and a member of the House of j.r.r. He and his family had made a name for themselves in their opposition of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord of Middle-earth, and had sacrificed much during the Great Struggle. He troubled the Dark Lord so much that he was forced into exile by his dark servants and was made to roam the land, ultimately stumbling upon the lands of the elven kingdom of Doriath, inexplicably breaching the Vale of Melian, which was a protective barrier surrounding the kingdom. As he was traversing through the forest, his eyes saw the indescribable. He witnessed the most beautiful being to ever exist. In his pain and hardship he watched as Lúthien Tinuviel, daughter of Thingol and Melian, the king and queen of Doriath, danced alone under the elegant moonlit sky. Then all memory of his pain departed from him, and he fell into an enchantment, for Lúthien was the most beautiful of all the children of Ilúvatar. Tolkien, when describing this moment, had only one person in mind, Edith, who he had watched dance under the moonlight and was utterly mesmerized many years before the Silmarillion was ever published. They grew up in an orphanage, and their love was not permitted for many years. And when they were able to be together, the First World War had broken out, and Tolkien was sent to the Western Front. But despite all of the obstacles and the difficulties, he managed to come back home to her. Once you understand the context of these stories, you start to see precisely why this specific tale from the Silmarillion is so important, and why it was repeatedly mentioned within the Lord of the Rings and paid homage to via the union of Aragorn and Arwen. As was the case with Jon and Edith, Beren too was not allowed to be with his love in the beginning. He met with Lúthien's parents, Thingol the elf and Melian the Maya, but the king would not have it. He would not accept a mortal man marrying his immortal daughter, regardless of Beren's long history in opposition to the Dark Lord. As such, in order to win the favor of Thingol and Lúthien's hand in marriage, Beren accepted a mighty challenge, perhaps the mightiest one until that point in the history of the world. He was to bring back to Thingol a Silmaril from the crown of Morgoth, where they were kept ever since the Dark Lord had robbed them from Valinor. This was the most dangerous mission in the world, and Beren gladly took it for the sake of Lúthien. Though the task was meant to be impossible, through countless hardships and blood shed, Beren made the impossible all too possible for the sake of his love. He stole a Silmaril from Morgoth's wretched crown, but the Dark Lord sent his great werewolf Karkaroth after him, who swallowed the Silmaril alongside one of Beren's hands. Despite this terrible loss, Beren was determined to do anything for his Lúthien, and carried on his quest, with the beast slain and the Silmaril recovered. This was it. Beren had done it, but in the process, after finally winning his beloved's hand in marriage, which was all he and she ever wanted, he was mortally wounded and died. Upon hearing the news of Beren's death, the immortal Lúthien, daughter of mighty elven father and angelic mother, died right then and there of a broken heart. Her soul was sent where all elven souls go, the halls of Mandos, where her and Beren's story touched the heart of the god of the dead so much that he brought them back to Middle-earth, resurrecting them and giving them a second chance, though Lúthien too would now share in the fate of men, and would leave Arda for a destiny known only to Ilúvatar after her death. She had given up her immortality for Beren, as what was the point of an immortality without him? In their second life, they managed to finally settle down. They had a family and would go on to become the progenitors of some of Middle-earth's mightiest heroes and dynasties, including Elrond, Elros, Elendil, Isildur, Aragorn, Arwen, and many, many more. Though themselves were not immortal, their legacy is. And though they themselves were not immortal, their love for each other is. Having explained in brief the tale of Beren and Lúthien and how Tolkien was inspired by his loving wife, it is time to explore the importance of love itself within the legendarium. Love is connected to nearly every good virtue showcased within The Lord of the Rings. Love for your fellow man, love for nature, love for family, love that transcends culture, language, and time. Its effects are far-reaching and all-inducing. Love is affection, it is attachment, it is something that you would be willing to sacrifice for, without it feeling like a sacrifice. It is something worth going on an impossible task for and facing adversity together. And while you don't have to convince the Vala of death to bring you back to life, you can do great things for the ones you love if you are willing. The tale of Beren and Lúthien is so important because their love represents hope. When everything is crumbling around you, when the Dark Lord or anything equivalent in your life to a Dark Lord is destroying you and turning everything upside down, having a Beren or Lúthien to weather the storm alongside you is vital. And love doesn't have to mean two people in love. Without a friend like Sam that loves Frodo his master so deeply, how could the ring have ever been destroyed? It is only with the deepest of love that someone can prove as loyal to Frodo as Sam was. The same goes for Merry and Pippin and countless other examples of extraordinary feats completed by ordinary people that managed to work together through incredible hardships via their love for each other. Is this not partly the point of the story? Out of the world's mightiest heroes and warriors, it was the hobbits, the most unexpected creatures imaginable, that would go on to shape the fate of Arda. This is no coincidence. Moreover, love is purpose. Whether it was Beren thinking of Lúthien while facing the first Dark Lord, or Aragorn thinking of Arwen while facing the second, their love is partly what enables them to do the great things that they do. Everything mentioned here is universal and is felt across every part of the world and by every human. While other values or ideas from The Lord of the Rings or other works by Tolkien can be considered more exclusive in their scope, this one is not. And it is no coincidence that it is from this value that the Legendarium is able to function and the story can move forward. It is something deeply relatable to the reader, deeply touching. It is something that everyone wishes to experience on their own. The feeling that you would be willing to do anything for something or someone. You are filled with hope, you stand taller, and are willing to be better, greater. This is the philosophy of love, and most especially the philosophy of love within The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien was lucky enough to have experienced all of this with his Edith, and Beren with his Lúthien, and Aragorn with his Arwen. Through great wars, all three of them, but they managed to come through, and this, I think, is one of the reasons why. And love doesn't have to be a person necessarily, it can be anything. It is something that provides meaning and attachment to you, but on a deep level. Something that touches your soul, that allows you to put yourself second gladly. It is the antithesis of the idea that life is without purpose. How can that be when we have the capacity to love? Be mindful, however, as love is not the only virtue at play here. Do not forget that it was Feanor's love for the Silmarils that led him down to the dark path of treachery and death on which he walked. Love as a virtue for good works in conjunction with wisdom and humility, being able to see the consequences of your actions. Nonetheless, when the shadow of Mordor was near consuming the whole world, and blinding out the sun, and stripping the earth of its beauty, love prevailed, because through Sauron's shadow and through the darkness of Mordor, Sam and Frodo were still able to see that beautiful sky, the same one that Lúthien had danced under many years ago, when Beren laid his eyes upon her. Thank you for watching.